Welcome everyone to What's on Young Minds. It's a podcast for and by young people and their mental health. So I'm joined by some special guests today. So first of all, I'm Aisha. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm a content creator for spoken word. So I do a lot of spoken word about my identity as someone who's queer, Muslim and disabled. For my content piece, I focused on my queer and Muslim identity and basically talked about my experiences in society. And it was really cool, very wholesome. So yeah, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Hi, my name's Noah. My pronouns are he, him. And my, piece of content that I created for YoungMinds was it was kind of like similar to a podcast, I guess. It was like a sit-down talkie video about my experiences of being both queer and disabled.
Amazing. Srishti?
Hi, my name is Srishti and I am also a content creator. I mostly create my content around my lived experiences of being queer, a woman and disabled. It's a lot to do with like shattering a billion myths that are associated with my identities.
Amazing, thank you. Maryam?
Yeah, I'm Maryam. My pronouns are they, them. I am a zine maker mostly. I do some poetry as well. The piece of content I created for Young Minds this time around was a zine that explored my Muslim identity and how that tied into my mental health journey.
Amazing. One question, what do you think makes you you?
I think, so for the longest time, I've been made to not feel like myself, and I've been made to like feel ashamed of my identity. And but now I've been like trying to unlearn all of that and like trying to, recognize the internalization of all the stereotypes. And so now what makes me is my authentic, silly, goofy self.
Nice.
I guess like growing up, I wasn't so much trying to hide my identity, but I was kind of like really trying to tone it down. And I guess in terms of the things I was trying to tone down were both disability and my queer identity, because for context, I'm a trans man. So I came out when I was, oh goodness, when did I come out? It's been ages. I came out when I was in year 9, so I was around 13, 14? Is that how old you were in year 9? I don't know.
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
Around that age.
So I came out around then, and naturally, being someone who came out as something that wasn't just a stereotypical person in a box, if that makes sense, I was bullied. So I was kind of like trying to tone down my queer identity. And at the same time, my disability became a lot more prominent because, for, I guess, a bit more context, I have a disability called neurofibromatosis type 1, and it causes, I'm stuttering a lot. The main way that affects me is that I have a facial disfigurement. It's kind of hard to tell on the cameras because they're on my good side, but on this side of my face I have a facial disfigurement, and that kind of grew when I, again, was in year 9. So 2 of those things happened in the exact same time. I got bullied quite a lot, unfortunately. But I guess now that I've left school and university and education and I've entered the workforce, I've, not trying to like parrot people's words, I've also become my authentic goofy self. And I'm really quite proud of my identity, and I think that what makes me me. Like, I wouldn't be me without being both queer and disabled. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what makes me me. Hopefully it wasn't too long.
Amazing. We love authenticity and goofiness, so love that. Maryam?
Yeah, I guess a lot of things make up myself. And I mean, not to like copy both of you guys, but I think just the exploration of my identity, also my transness and being a non-binary person, but someone who might not typically present as one as well. And then being neurodivergent and my mental health journey, all of these things come together as an amalgamation and have created me. But I also believe that I'm constantly evolving. I feel like my idea of myself is never fixed, and there are so many times I'm questioning things and I'm like, what am I doing? Who am I? So I think my authentic self exists in sort of more of the in-betweens and the constantly creating of my own self.
Amazing, very wholesome. I think for me, what makes me me is my ability to like be vulnerable. Because like when I was younger, I didn't really talk about my feelings, and then when I got into like poetry and also like was able to discover like who I am, my identity, and be comfortable with my different intersections, I was able to talk about my feelings a bit more, and yeah, tell other people. And I think that's something that makes me me, because it also allows me to like have more meaningful connections with other people around me. And I think that, yeah, that's really cool. And I also like, I hear the fact like constantly like discovering yourself, and new things about yourself. And I think that is also what makes me me. So sorry, I'm copying you.
We're just all copying each other.
Yes, basically. But we love that. We love shared experiences. Yes, so to start off, we're going to talk a little bit about the art and the content that you created, and basically how your intersecting identity shaped your work and why it's important for you to share those parts of yourself. So the art and content that I made is a spoken word piece. I started doing spoken word in 2021. It was during lockdown, in which I like started writing poetry like properly. I had written it beforehand, but not spoken word. And it was actually a open mic night that started in London, and they came down to Manchester and did one in my favourite local like queer-owned venue. It's called Feel Good Club. Really cool.
I was going to ask what it was called, in case I'm ever in Manchester.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like it's queer-owned, and they have loads of events there, and that's where I did my first performance. But so I went to this open mic night, and I saw loads of people perform, and I was like that's what I want to do next time. And I think like really shaped who I am as a person. It allows me to actually like talk about my mental health in a way that is a good outlet for me, because I find it hard to like describe it if it's not through poetry or like an artistic expression, because sometimes it's just easier if it's like in metaphors. Don't know why.
I get that.
Yeah, and I think my intersecting identity shaped my work because so I think when I first discovered I was queer, I think I was struggling a lot with the intersection of like being queer and Muslim due to like the society expectations that were put on me, like from family, but also people on like social media, because I'm very like outspoken about being queer and Muslim on socials, and I think that kind of shaped my work in the sense that I wanted to show people that they weren't alone in if they were also going through that thing. So I think I used poetry as the outlet to be like, okay, like I feel comfortable being both, and I also used it to like highlight the difficulties of being both, just so I was able to get that out there. And it's important for me to express these parts of myself because I think sometimes these stories get lost amongst like mainstream media, and I think not a lot of people talk about it because of the risk of backlash or hate. Like I've posted on socials a lot of time and I've got like a lot of hate or backlash from it. But I'm like if I can be the representation that somebody else is able to see and resonate with, then that's something that's really important to me.
So the piece of content I created for YoungMinds was, I think I mentioned it a moment ago, it was basically, I guess, a TikTok style video, so portrait, and just kind of speaking to the camera for, I think the initial guidelines was about 6 to 7 minutes. Mine went on for 10 because I do like to yap. I love yapping, it's my favourite thing to do. So I guess the reason why I chose that style of content was because I could just sit there, talk to a camera for about 20 minutes and then edit it out, edit it down? Is that the right way to say it? Oh, I didn't know if that was the right way to say it. Edit it down to be about in between 6 and 10 minutes. I felt like that was like kind of like the best way. That's how I best can like express myself. And I guess the reason why I chose that form of content, another reason why, is because ever since I was around 13, I loved making like short form videos, mainly on YouTube. Luckily, I've deleted my old channels because they were cringy. Oh my goodness, I can't explain how cringy they were. So they wiped off the YouTube service forever. But I just loved kind of like making like really goofy videos. Ever since I could kind of get my hands on like someone that can record. Like even before, like when I was 13 and I was a kid, I would talk to like my family's camera just for like hours on end, just because I liked talking to, I guess, again, like an inanimate object. So I guess the reason why I chose to do that piece of content was because when I was around, again, in between, I guess, the ages of 13, like 15, 16, a lot of the YouTube creators that I would watch were both queer and or disabled. And I felt like that was quite a good way to go, oh, there are other people who have the same experiences as me. I want to add to that. So I guess like my old very cringy YouTube videos were me talking about kind of like my experience with, for example, my trans journey. So obviously going like hormones, getting surgery, things like that. And to be honest, I have like privated these videos now just because I found, again, cringy, that's my favourite word. I found them quite cringy. But in a way, I quite liked that it was cringy because again, that was just me showing off my authentic self. But now I've kind of moved off YouTube onto TikTok. And I have found like a small community of people, especially with like the same condition I have, neurofibromatosis. And it's been really great to kind of like meet other people, mainly virtually, with the same condition, as we could like share our experiences out and like, you know, in hospitals or just daily life, things like that. And yeah, so I guess that's kind of like why I like doing content creation. So yeah.
Amazing. Srishti?
Yeah. So it's kind of like similar to both of your experiences, because like when I first started to post on like public platforms, I used to like write a lot, and it was mostly out of helplessness and frustration, because I just felt so lonely, and I was so young, and I was forced to isolate, right? Because like there was so much of bullying, and like no one wanted to be around me, and like no kid wanted to like hang out with me, and like there were no trips to go to, no one would invite me to parties. In fact, I would get uninvited. And I, I know, and that sucked, right? Because like I was just a kid and I had nowhere else to go, and like I didn't know what to do, and I was like just so frustrated, and I just like started like writing it all down and like posting it in forms of poems and like personal essays and stuff like that. And then like I kind of also realized how, you know, it's like either like when you've especially got like a very evident marginalized identity, people either like completely ignore your existence, or like they acknowledge it way too much that it becomes such a huge deal. And and like in both cases, they just forget to see you as a human and like as another person, right? And yeah, I was like really struggling with that. But then like gradually when I started posting more and more, that helplessness sort of became like, it turned into a hope, because I was like, okay, you know, maybe if I start putting myself out there, maybe if I start being more vulnerable and honest and authentic, maybe someone will see me. Like out of all these people, at least one person will be there who will be able to like, you know, see me, see like the real me. And yeah, so I did that. And then I was able to like, then the social media became like a place where I could take up space, where I could raise voice, where I could like advocate for myself and for others. And it also became a place where I could find more like-minded people. I found a lot of community there. I made a lot of friends. Like this was the first time when I finally like found people I could relate to. Yeah, which is exactly why like social media has always been so important to me, because like all my friends are there, like in my phone, like, you know, they're on the internet. And and yeah, I love that. And like it means a lot to me to also be vulnerable out there, because again, like the representation that does exist, it is so faulty. And I do want to change that, and I'm glad that I get to do that, because I know that people do come up and they're like, oh, you know, we never thought of this, and you know, you made us question that, and that's nice.
Amazing. Just a question. I remember you said that you wanted to like feel seen. Why do you think it's important for people to see marginalized people talking about their experiences?
So, you know, it stems from the fact that like, so first of all, people think that, or at least we're made to feel that we do not belong, but we do, and people forget that. And a lot of times it's like unintentional. It's not like it's not like everyone's like very rude or they just like don't want to see us. Like a lot of people do not want to see us, but like some of them are trying, but they just don't know how. And I felt it was important to like just put my voice out there, because again, like not a lot of people are able to do that. But I wanted to take that risk, and also I had no other option but to do that. I wanted to be seen, and now, like, yeah, like once I did that, I found community. I felt less isolated, and now I've like sort of built this community for myself and for others. And I think that's lovely.
I think that's really special. Thank you. Maryam?
Yeah, so I'm primarily now a zine maker. I used to do a lot of poetry, and then I think I didn't leave poetry behind. I sort of evolved the way that I wanted to present poetry. So does everyone know what a zine is?
Yes.
Great, amazing. Saves me explaining it. So with the zines being such more of a versatile way to present art, it doesn't have to exist in one dimension. Like I can just sort of play with it a lot more. I really like zines as a further way to explore different topics, and also different approaches to the way that I did my art. So a lot of my poetry had been explorations of my identities, but mostly to do with my journeys through mental health and how dealing with a lot of struggles, with a lot of grief. And because it wasn't something that I felt very comfortable at the time talking to people, I felt it was a lot easier to translate that into works, into art. And then with zines, it sort of evolved into what is a way that I can make my pain worth it, essentially, into something that benefits me and that I can grow from. So a lot of my zines stem from this idea of how can I learn from a past experience, or make it educational. So I made a zine on alexithymia, which is the concept of not being able to describe your feelings, which is why I turned to poetry in the first place, because like you said, metaphors are just so much easier to use instead of trying to put things into words. So a lot of my content that I create is a lot of zines that explore these sort of topics and issues.
Exciting. What's your favourite zine?
Oh, that's such a tough one, because I really love all of my zines. You'll have a special place in my heart. I think one of my favorites is a communication card zine that I made. Oh, I don't know how long ago I made it, but I think that one was my favorite because that was my first instance of connecting with other people in the zine community, because there are a lot of opportunities within the zine community to trade zines or sell your zines, and I don't really sell them, but I'm very happy to give my zines away or send digital copies. And that was one of the first zines where people reached out to me and like, this sounds like a really useful aid that I could use. Could I please have a copy of this? And I just felt so happy that what I created was helping someone. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's really nice.
Yeah, that's so cute.
Very wholesome. Yeah, I loved your zine. It was cool. Just the next one, we're just going to do a little like finish the sentence, I guess. So it's going to be about what mental health means to you. So if you could like start it off with, to me, mental health means, and then finish the sentence with however you feel. Maryam, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So to me, mental health means caring for yourself in a way that includes your body, but also your feelings and your thoughts and your hopes and your dreams. Like there's just so much to mental health that you might not necessarily think about, because I feel like knowing your body, which is something that I really struggled with for a while, and being in your body and experiencing and accepting feelings, even if you're not necessarily happy or comfortable, is really important. So as a neurodivergent person, I have quite a few sensory issues, and it took me so long to put two and two together that if a place was too loud or too hot or something, I was becoming overwhelmed, and that it's really important that I need to recognize that and understand what I need to do or tell others around me what needs to happen for me to actually feel comfortable in a space. So I feel like it's very important to realize that mental health, while it says mental health, there's a lot of stuff to do with your physical health as well. That's quite important too.
Amazing, thank you. Srishti?
So again, I agree with Maryam, because like there's a lot to mental health, but like I think mental health means being able to rest and being able to feel safe in your body, with others, and like just being able to safely exist.
Amazing. Noah?
So I think to me, mental health is looking after yourself in a way. How best can I describe it? I guess mental health to me means just quite simply, looking after yourself to ensure that you are the most comfortable you can be. And again, that does include kind of like your more physical body, because the mind and your body are definitely 100% connected. But yeah, just kind of like doing things, kind of like looking after yourself that primarily affects your mental state.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sure. I think to me, mental health is like looking at the self like holistically. So I think that physical health is a massive part of that. Taking the time out to actually do things that are good for your mental health and actually help you feel like you belong, because we know that belonging has like a direct link to mental health as well. And also like I feel like for me, mental health is about like being able to exist within the intersections and the spaces that you're part of and feel like psychologically safe in those spaces. So like, for example, like neurodivergent community, queer community, Muslim community, and being able to like look past the barriers that are put in by communities or societies and be able to like feel fully yourself, accepted and just like happy and content in yourself. Yeah, that's what it is to me. Amazing. So in terms of experiences of mental health support, like if you've sought support for your mental health, what has your experience of that been? Like, do you want to start?
All right. I mean, when you first started saying that little bit, my first thought was negative. I'm sure we can all agree on. But yeah, my experience hasn't been the best, if I'm being totally honest. I mean, I won't go into kind of like the nitty gritty because reasons. But yeah, basically, I guess and it just hasn't been like the best, and especially when it comes to kind of like my more queer identity, it's just been kind of like at times quite laughable. I mean, I'll tell like a short little anecdote. So one time, it was my first or second, I think it actually was my first appointment with like the adult mental health team. So I moved on from CAMS, which is the child mental health team, into adult mental health, and I sat down with this guy, and to begin with, he seemed like quite nice, and I noticed on his lanyard, like his NHS lanyard, he had like the Pride NHS rainbow thing, and I thought, oh, this guy's gonna get me. And then he said on like he was looking at my like file profile thing, whatever clinicians look at. He was looking at that and said, oh, I see you're transgender, but you're also on testosterone. But if you want to become a woman, why are you on testosterone? And I was thinking like, and I had to explain trans men to him, and that took up like most of the therapy session, which was a bit irritating. And then kind of after I explained that, he also was looking more at my record and said, oh, you're also autistic. And then we started talking a little bit more about that. And then at first I was like, okay, he understands autism, great. But then it got to the part where he was like, he said like, oh, so what do you do for fun? And one of the things I said was go to concerts, because I absolutely love going to concerts. Music is kind of like my big like passion, one of my big passions in life. And he basically was like, well, if you're autistic, how come you can go to concerts? And I was just there like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here moment. Like, I was like, why? And then we kind of finished up the session, and to be honest, I just didn't go back, because I was like, I can't be with a person who doesn't know what a trans man is and thinks all autistic people and neurodivergent people just stay in their homes all day. I mean, obviously there are people that do that, and that is, if they feel comfortable doing that, of course they can do that. That's not me like diminishing their lived experience. But you know how some people just have like such a narrow view of like neurodivergent, like queerness. It was just, at the time it was really annoying, but I look back on it now and I can just sort of like laugh at the situation. I was like, this guy, he was wearing like a rainbow thing and he just didn't understand the teen LGBT.
I feel like that's so frustrating because it's like a mental health professional that like should have that experience
Yeah.
or like even like
Exactly.
be willing to like learn
Yeah.
from you. It shouldn't take like you shouldn't have to take up a whole therapy session
Yeah.
to explain your identity to
Yeah.
someone. Like I think that's what
Exactly.
the most frustrating thing about
Yeah.
like accessing mental health support when you like your intersections aren't
Yeah,
really
exactly.
understood, I guess.
Yeah, and like I do understand that not every single therapist out there's again talking about mental health services specifically, I understand that not every single therapist out there is going to understand every single marginalized identity. Of course, I don't think anyone here is expecting that, but it's just the basics. You know what I'm saying? You think they'll know the basics, that trans men exist and trans women exist and what that means, and like non-binary people exist and what that kind of means, and like how there's like I mean, there's been so many papers talking about there's an intersection between queerness and disability and neurodivergentness. I mean, for example, my university paper was about autistic people and their lived experiences of being trans, because a lot of like my trans friends I know are neurodivergent to some extent, and there's been so many papers that surely you would know the basics. I don't know, but yeah, it's just a bit frustrating. I'm like, ugh.
I think there's like a noticeable gap that like because I also like work in students' unions.
Oh, okay.
So like there's been a noticeable gap in like mental health providers or like mental health professionals with like trans inclusion, but also cultural awareness.
Yeah.
Within like mental health settings. I think like that's also been my experience with different services. Like I accessed psychosocial counselling. I think that's what it was, and like to be honest, it was pretty good. But I did have to like explain that explain the cultural background behind why my queerness was a problem in society because of like religious background and cultural background. I feel like I had to be like, okay, yeah, I can't just leave home right now. I did end up leaving home later, but like in that space for like the response to be, okay, just leave home, instead of like helping me navigate the issues of like how I was dealing with the difficulties of existing as somebody who's queer and Muslim. Like I feel like it was important. It's important for like mental health professionals to be able to understand that, or like even just be open to like asking more questions about it. I think that that's really important for them, like to even like learn from the people that they're supporting. I think like nobody, as you said, like nobody here expects mental health professional to know everything, but like the willingness to like actually learn and like invest time and care into the people that you're supporting is really important. I think like more broadly, like the mental health support that I've received it's been pretty good, but it's just like inconsistent. Like
yeah, that's definitely a good word.
I think because I accessed I think 12 sessions, and then I kind of like was like my session kind of ended, and then like if I need to go access more, then I have to like go back on the wait list, and it's just frustrating. And also like getting on like ADHD diagnosis at the same time, that's Manchester's, the wait time is 7 to 12 years, so it's kind of crazy. But yeah, I think like all of that together has just been something really difficult when I've been accessing that support.
And I guess when it comes to like things like ADHD diagnosis, autism diagnosis, when I got my autism diagnosis, I was 16, so that was 8 years ago. Oh my goodness. Anyway, sorry. That was around 8 years ago, and even back then, like it was around 26 weeks, I want to say, but then it got up to like a year. And now, like you were saying, it's, especially for ADHD specifically, it's years. And unfortunately, it's a thing all across, I mean, I won't go into too much tangent, but it's like a thing all across Europe, because one of my good friends in Finland had to wait, I think, 2 years for an ADHD diagnosis, and that was through like a private system through their work. So it's unfortunately just a thing throughout Europe, which in a way, I feel like it makes us feel better, because we're like, okay, we're not in this alone, but also at the same time, we shouldn't have to feel like that. Yeah. We should just be able to get the support we need. And obviously with NHS, we should expect like a little wait list. But like when it gets beyond like half a year, it's a bit like, come on now, please, I need help.
But I feel like the government changes to like mental health support as well is really like influential on that aspect. But I'm sure we could all probably talk about that.
We
for
could have a
days.
whole another podcast about that.
I think like the investment needs to be there in order for people to deliver it. Like there's clearly a very evident need. Like mental health charities have consistently said that. But I think like people kind of need to put money where their mouths are, basically, because we know that there's a massive mental health problem, and yeah, like in many different like demographics. But yeah, I think the resource needs to be there in order to deliver like the scale that is needed.
Yeah, I guess. So it's like, so just to continue sort of your point about how support can be really inconsistent, I find that is so true. And I feel like there's obviously loads of reasons why that happens, and there's loads of like sort of gaps in places that really should have a bit more support. And I feel like schools need to become more equipped with providing mental health support, especially for young people, because that's going to be the place that they're spending most of their time. And for me, especially in school, I feel like there was a real missed opportunity for them to give me support, especially in times when I was very obviously struggling. So for context, my mum passed away when I was 11, and it was a really hard time for any kid, of course, right? And I feel the school didn't really take it as much because at that time, I never really presented that I was struggling, because I feel like I internalized a lot of those feelings and just sort of put on a brave face, because obviously if you're being told, okay, you need to be strong, you're the oldest of all of your siblings, you got to sort of get it together and be like more responsible with household. And then also being neurodivergent on top of that and not having a word for that and not knowing, there was a lot of struggling that I was doing that no one could necessarily see, but I felt really strongly about. And then when I moved to a secondary school, because it's also in that really awkward transition period between primary school and secondary school, I feel like there were many gaps where the teacher or the mental health support teams at the school could have checked in a bit more or seen signs that should have been obvious if I was not achieving my grades. I think that was one of the main things, is that schools place these expectations, and then as soon as you tick off all of the boxes, they're like, you're not a concern, we don't need to worry about you. Even if you're crying in class to your teacher, that doesn't matter, you're doing good. So I feel like there needs to be a lot more conversations about how best to support people that without them having to specifically reach out for it, because that's what I eventually did have to do. So I think when I turned 16, I eventually started going to the GP behind my dad's back at the time and was just like, please help me. But it should be a lot more easy for people to access support. There's also an anecdote about that, where I specifically requested to the mental health services, please don't tell my dad about this. Like, don't send him any text that there's going to be an appointment or anything. I'm trying to do this on my own. And then they end up sending him a text and had to spin like a really wild story about how this is all volunteering work and it's nothing to worry about. But yeah, I guess like you said about understanding those cultural differences and really respecting that as you are accessing these mental health supports, and then understanding what the cultural background around what this person needs for the support as well.
Thank you for sharing that. And also on the bit where you were talking about like having to be the strong one, like out of your siblings, well, how do you think that like impacts your experience of mental health if you're like constantly under that expectation?
Yeah, oh, that's a big story.
It's
a big question. So essentially it did mean having to sideline a lot of my thoughts and feelings in favor of having to help others in my family with dealing with theirs. So also those cultural expectations of, I guess, for female presenting people of like, well, you're expecting to not have to have crazy breakdowns and stuff, like you have to just sort of soldier on with it. Or you have to be nice and quiet, or you have to be obedient, that sort of thing. There's just a lot of undue pressure that's just presented onto you when you happen to be in this one particular scenario. So there was a lot of stuff that was expected of me as an 11-year-old to like suddenly start to learn how to cook or take my siblings to school and stuff. And I mean, I can understand from my dad's point of view, this is a really difficult time for him as well, because he became a single father, and then he was having to suddenly, like, he needs a new job that can accommodate our needs a bit better. But I feel like if schools and other people, other adults around me at that time also recognized these pressures that were being put onto me, I could have had a lot more support, or people could have been a lot more aware of what was happening and know when to step in.
Srishti?
I think a lot has already been covered. And while I agree, like, the process to access mental health is so difficult in itself, but I also feel like, other than that, like, there's this onus of taking care of one's mental health, like, it's just on them. But like, people don't realize, like, even like, even if I do everything I can to make myself feel better, there is still ableism out there, there is still homophobia out there, and that is something that is not under my control, and I cannot do anything about it. So no matter however much, however much I exercise or like meditate or do yoga or like whatever, like, I won't be able to like get past through it unless like it ends, right? And that is something that people end up neglecting, and like the onus is always on us, and like all the responsibility and accountability is on us instead of it being on the society. And I think, yeah, that is something that's been missing in a lot of conversations, and no one's talking about it.
Yeah. I think like, the like burden put on like marginalized people specifically in those spaces to like also like advocate for themselves in the mental health sphere is something that I found like really challenging in that space. So next question is about what helps you to look after yourself if you've been struggling, and how does community play a part in that, especially when you hold identities that aren't normally represented in the media or in in mainstream society?
For the longest time, because like I internalized the idea that I am a burden, I could not reach out for help. But now, like, I've been learning that, and now I am at a place where I've surrounded myself with nicer people, and I've got friends who I can rely on. So my number one thing is always to like just go cry to them and just like let them know that I need help and I'm not able to like do it. Like, just talk to me, or like just help me navigate this thing, because like I can't on my own. And community and like friends have like, they've always been so important to me. I just cannot stress that enough. Like, and also because of the fact that I never had friends for the longest time. Like, during my school, I used to yearn for friends, like, I used to like, wish that, I wish I had friends who would like stand up for me, or, who wouldn't be friends with me out of pity, because that also happened. And I was just, but now like I've got the world's best people as my friends, and I'm so, I'm
That's so
so
sweet.
glad. I know, they're all so nice. And I'm so glad about that, because like with them, I do not have to like mask anymore. I do not have to like prove myself, and I can just be with them, And I know that, when like the world looks away and like when it leaves me stranded, they will have my back and I can rely on them. So that belief in itself, like that one belief, like it just keeps me going on, and that gives me a lot of hope.
Amazing. I think it's like the authenticity of like those connections is always like really nice if you don't have to continuously explain yourself or and just like exist together in that space. I think that's really wholesome.
Yeah.
And I guess my similar is very similar to yours. So I guess through like the world of social media, I managed to get like a small group of friends who are all like queer and neurodivergent in some way, shape or form, and we all came together for our love for like a certain artist. And even though now that we don't, not like this artist done anything wrong, but now that we've all kind of like moved on from that artist and like our own separate ones. We still have a group chat together, we all hang out together quite often. And yeah, it's just very similar to you. If I'm ever had struggling with something, I can go to them. And even though none of them have like a physical disability, like I have, I can still talk to them and vent to them about it. And they kind of, are just there to be a listening ear. And I feel like that's like quite a good way to just kind of get your frustrations out with a small group of friends who get you for you. So yeah, that's kind of like my experience.
I mean, I have to say the exact same thing, right? Friends are just so crucial to everything. These people that you can trust with yourself and your feelings. And then I also feel like the experience of being there for them, I feel like as well, is such a crucial part of community building, is being able to help each other out. And
100%.
yeah, exactly. And I think it's just so like that's what true love is there to me. I feel like yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like bouncing off what you said, one of my friends who lives up in Finland, I think I mentioned him earlier. He recently came out as non-binary, and he kind of came to me for like advice. He kind of came to me for advice on kind of how to come out, how to deal with that, how like my experience with hormone therapy has been, because I've been on hormones for 7 years now, I want to say. And he kind of came to me and said, "Oh, what's your experience with this? Did this happen to you? Did that happen to you?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, this happened, but that didn't really happen." And then he had an experience which I didn't have, so I was a bit like, "Oh, what's that about?" And it's just so nice that I could help someone else. Whereas I think what you were saying a moment ago, like when I was growing up and through like kind of my childhood and teen years, I didn't have anyone to help me, because especially in like 2013 to like 2017, like being trans was seen as cringe and just cringe, and so no one really wanted to like hang out with me because they'll be like, "Oh, you're cringy." But the fact that I could help someone else was really nice, and like my inner like teen child self was like, "Yeah, we're doing this." But yeah, that was like really nice as well. So yeah.
I think it is really nice when you like acknowledge that like you've actually helped someone else with their experiences. It like helps you navigate your own well as well.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Also, I feel like when you're told that you're nothing but a burden, and then you're able to like help someone out as well, it kind of reaffirms the idea that maybe you're not a burden after all.
100%. Yeah,
You know, that you're like an equal with that friend. Like you equally like contribute to each other's lives.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think like for me, when I'm struggling, I'm gonna go four for four and say friends as well. Like I have a group of friends now. Like I have like multiple different friend groups for like they all have like different personalities. So it's really nice to like hang out with all of them at different times. It's quite nice to have like a variety of friends. I think like one thing I used to struggle with when I first came out was like my friends at the time like not understanding and like kind of distancing themselves from me, and that kind of like. Caught me off guard, and it kind of like knocked my like self-esteem a little bit. But now like I have people that love me for who I am, and it's really nice, especially in because like I used to live in my parents' house, which was like very religious household, and I really struggled to like be myself in that household. So to be able to come out of that and like build a community within the queer community, like I perform a lot at spoken word events, so at like queer specific events, and I think that's something that's helped me like bring that community together and be like, okay, like I feel part of this now, because before I was able to come out, I felt like I wasn't able to like fully participate within those communities, and I think it's really like nice to be able to like it's a real privilege that I'm able to like be out in those spaces, and I think it's really important to like help other people feel that way as well, even like if they aren't able to come out, like helping them, speaking to them about their identities, like so important, because yeah, it's often the times where you feel most alone if you're not able to share your experiences, but yeah, I think also like helping other people navigate their identities, like when people have come up to me after shows, like even like there was one time a Jewish woman came up to me, and she was like I'm not Muslim, but I resonate with your experiences, and I felt like a really like it was a community of like people who had experienced like religious trauma in that sense, or difficulties within existing within that religious space and queer space. So like I found that something that was really special to me. So yeah, cool. So yeah, getting on to like hope and joy. What's something that never fails to bring you hope and joy?
That's a good question. Oh, I guess something that brings me. I guess I need a moment to think.
That's okay.
I guess kind of what brings me hope and joy in this current trying time. When it comes to, I guess, kind of like my queer identity, and specifically the trans side of my queerness, is seen. I don't know if anyone here has seen it. They're young, they're not like young kids, but they're like 12, 13-year-olds. Kind of, I don't know where they're protesting or having like a sleep-in, but they're having like a sleep-in at some government building, and they're
Trans kids deserve better.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it. I knew what it was.
West Streeton's office.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I knew. Sorry, I knew where it was, but I couldn't say the word. I was like, where is that? But yeah, that like brings me so much hope, because like I can do that now. Like genuinely, I cannot do that now. These kids are so strong, and it's like, wow. I'm just like awed, but is awed the right word? I'm just like so in shock in like a good way at them, and that brings me so much hope, because I'm thinking, oh, you know, the next generation is going to be so much more vocal than I guess I was, and in a way that's quite comforting to me as well, because I know that these kids would also have my back, even though they're kids. They should be doing their GCSEs or SATs or whatever exams you do at like 12 years old, and they should be, you know, having a childhood. They shouldn't have to be doing that, but they are, and that kind of brings me hope in a weird way, because I'm like, okay, things are good, I guess. Obviously, they're not good. You know what? You know what I'm trying to say.
It's like hope for humanity, and hope for like that the next generation is gonna like
improve stuff,
exhibit a change, or like force the government to think differently about the systems or the legislation they're putting into place. I think that's something that's really hopeful for me as well. I think like seeing the next generation, like just seeing how like active they are. Like activism is such a big thing, especially at the moment. I think that's something that gives me hope, and I think like existing in spaces with people, like for example in my job I had like a really wholesome conversation with somebody the other day. We were talking about like faith spaces on campus, and she was a Muslim woman, and she was talking about how in the multi-faith centre that we're building, I'm not building. I'm not a builder. Like as a university, they're building a multi-faith centre, and she was like, I feel like there needs to be a space for like queer people of faith, because I feel like they're missed out. And I feel like that was a very like wholesome conversation, because I don't really see a lot of like non-queer people from religious communities talking about the importance of those safe spaces, and I think that's something that really gives me hope, is seeing people like actually like stand up for other marginalised communities. And I think sometimes that can be missed. Sometimes there might be like focus on your own identities, and not looking at like the nuances, or like other people that exist within your communities that might be missed out. And I think that's something that gives me hope. Srishti?
For me, it has to be my friends.
Yes, of course.
It's like, I don't know, like it's like whenever I'm with them, my heart literally glows, and I become more braver, more kinder, and you know, there's this hope in me that okay, no matter how things are like we will navigate through them, and like things will get better in the end as long as I have these people by my side.
Yeah, I agree.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. So awesome. It's like warming my heart. Maria?
Yeah, I'd say the zine community again, because there's just so many diverse voices, and zines are such an accessible format of format for people to get involved in art without having to stress too much about it, and just to get across a message in a really easy way that they can reprint and then send or download. And there's just so many different people who represent themselves or advocate for themselves, or just are angry and want to put out there into the world about how they're being mistreated. And it's just such an important output, I feel, especially being able to have the privilege of reading those stories as well.
Amazing. I love that. This is such a wholesome conversation, guys. Yeah. Sorry, I was just in awe of the conversation. Thinking about like other Muslim or queer disabled content creators right now, who would you say you're loving right now? I can go first because I have a few in mind. So one of them is actually like my one of my friends who's actually big on the music scene at the moment. They're called Nadia. So do you know Nadia?
I know of them. Yeah.
So cool. They're so cool. They're a non-binary Muslim singer. And they're so cool. Like I met them when I was doing like spoken word stuff. I met them and they performed at like one of my first events, and now they're hitting it big. Yes, they're big. And I think just seeing them like be able to be their full authentic self in the media, online, and like feel comfortable to do that, be supported by people around them, and also like incorporate Arabic in their music as well. I think it's like, so they do like they speak in Arabic and they sing in Arabic and sing in English, and I think the mix is quite nice to have like that cultural aspect to like their music as well. And I think also Maddie Zam is they're both singers, by the way. Maddie Zam is a queer artist that sings a lot about religious trauma and like leaving the church. So she used to be like an ex-church leader, and she talks a lot about her experiences of leaving the church and how religious trauma has like impacted her identity, but also like the love from the people around her in those spaces as well. I think it just like allowed me to like resonate quite well with it. I went to see her live last year, and it was like, it felt like a spiritual experience. Nice. And it was brilliant. And one of her songs that is really good is If It's Not God, and I cried to it on karaoke. So I don't ask why karaoke and crying was in the same thing, but it is a really sad song. But like it was like when you like have those like sad karaoke moments, it was one of those. But it was very wholesome.
So I follow quite a few like queer and disabled like influencers, and if I'm being brutally honest, a lot of their names have just completely vanished from out my mind, because typically, of course they do. The moment you ask someone, but a few that I have in mind is one of them, going off what you were saying about artists, is a person called Nemo. They won Eurovision of last year, and they're non-binary, and their song that they performed at Eurovision was called The Code, was about their experience coming out as like non-binary, trans, and kind of how they were breaking the code, binary code. I thought that was quite smart, and I just really like them because they just seem like such a wholesome person. I haven't had the privilege of meeting them, but from like interviews and stuff on their social media, they just seem like so wholesome. And another like influencer, I don't really like that word, but another like person that I follow on Instagram and TikTok is someone called May, and they run a small business called Inside My Head. And as you can imagine from like the name of the business, is about like mental health. So they have like communication like jumpers, so it has like emotions like across like the chest, and you can like point to it. Has like yes and no on the sleeves, and we've been mutuals on TikTok for like quite a while now, and their kind of like whole business is about both being disabled and queer, and they just seem like such a wholesome person. I've spoken to them a few times, and they're just really nice. I mean, they also like talk about their experiences on social media, so it isn't just like promoting their business. But yeah, those are two people that have come to my mind. More will probably come in a moment, but yeah, those are like two people that I just thought of instantly.
Amazing. Lovely.
So yeah.
If you do think of it, then
Yeah,
feel
I'll yell
free to chip in. Any of you want to go next?
I can go next.
Yeah, sure.
There's like a whole lot of list of influencers and content creators I follow. But recently I've been following this person called Claire, and they are so good at what they do. So they're also a wheelchair user, and I have learned a lot of stuff from them. And like they're like so funny and like so witty, and like they create these like random videos sometimes where like they just like remind wheelchair users to do stuff. So like for a very long time, I did not know how to like clean my caster wheels, and they just like put up a video on that, and they were just like, have you guys been cleaning your wheels? And I was like, no, I haven't. And then,
You're like, I'm meant to clean them?
was I supposed to? I didn't know that. And then, yeah, it's like, you know, they post these very cute, fun little videos, and I absolutely love them.
I love that. It's like that you're like kind of being called out, and you're like, okay, yes, yeah, I'll do it.
It's like, I came here to have a good time, and I'm honestly feeling so called out right now.
Maria?
Yeah, there's this content creator I've only recently followed who's called Maryam, who is an narrow ace, a queer Muslim, and she's just amazing. And she's been quite vocal quite recently, actually, about her experiences of mental health. And it just feels really good to be seen in that sort of scenario, and also how someone can feel so confident in being very open about that sort of aspect of their health and just telling the world about it instead of sort of just hiding it away. So yeah, that's someone that I'd recommend.
Amazing. Yeah, I know them as well. They're so cool. Yeah, I always see their stuff online. Sick. So just in terms of like any like young person watching this podcast, for example, what would you say to a young person that share similar aspects of your identities or your intersections?
I mean, it's going to sound like really generic, but it's kind of like it does get better. If you're like a young person watching this or listening to this and say you're in school, it's going to sound, again, like I just mentioned, really generic, but it does get better once you leave school. Like you're going to meet the majority of adults in this world, despite what the media might look like and society as a whole might look like. Most people are just kind. They're just like, if you tell people about your queer identity, most of the time they're just gonna be like, okay, cool, whatever. Like they're just like so neutral about it. Whereas like I know in media, especially when it comes to like trans issues, and like trans rights and whatnot, a lot of you may think that a lot of adults are like really transphobic, but obviously there are some that are, but majority are not. They're just so chill, and I feel like, at least talking from my own experience, when you're in school, it just feels like school goes on forever and ever and ever. But it doesn't. Once you do your GCSEs or your A-levels and you leave, you don't have to talk to any of your previous classmates if you don't want to. You can unfriend them on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever social media people are using nowadays, and TikTok. But yeah, basically, it does get better. And I know that being a teenager, being both queer and the same with myself, it is quite suffocating at times. It can feel quite suffocating at times, but it does get better. And once you reach the adult world and start interacting with, you know, other adults, everyone's just kind of, the majority of people are just so chill. They just are so chill. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like my advice.
I think like I really resonated when you were saying about like how it is like the minority view that might be like louder in the media that dominate it, but like there are loads of people out there that will embrace you and love you. And I think one thing that I would probably say to a young person like that share similar aspects of your identity is that they can coexist, and like love isn't a sin, and I think that's something that like I would have appreciated to hear when I was younger, to like embrace both parts of myself and know that they can both exist together. I did my dissertation about being queer and Muslim. It was pretty cool, and I think that like helped me to also like embrace that. But I think to like anybody who's watching this that is queer and is Muslim, they both can exist together. And like nobody can tell you that they can't. And if they do, then they're wrong. But yeah, I think just like you will find a community that embrace you and love you. There's so many people out there that are like queer South Asian, queer Muslim, queer neurodivergent, and there will be people out there that are ready to like embrace you if you're able to come out. But also like if you aren't able to come out, like I think sometimes those stories are like misheard. Like it's a privilege to be able to come out and be open about your identity. And I think like sometimes like if I didn't have the privilege of coming out, like it would be nice for somebody to say like you were still so valid in your identities and you're still so loved by the people around you. And like I hope like one time you're able to like you're able to feel safe in your identity and on one day like safe enough to be who you are. I think I find comfort in the fact that like the people before me would like look back at look forward to me being able to be out and proud and like being like, you know, like I'm so proud of that. And like I hope I can like inspire like the next generation to then do the same thing, and they can look back like it's just like a wholesome like generational thing. Yeah, that was cute. I just said my own thing was cute. Yes. Does everyone want to go next? Yeah.
So I think my advice would be that be angry at the society and not at yourself. You are not at fault, and there's something, and like just be kind and compassionate to yourself. And I know it's very hard because like especially when like the world keeps telling you again and again that kindness is something that you do not deserve, but you do not have to like push your own boundaries to fit in, to belong, because you already do. Like you're here and you belong. And I wish that someone told me that way earlier. But yeah, like you do not have to like earn somebody's love or affection. Like that should just come to you, simply because you exist. And yeah, that is something like just take up the space, be angry, be your authentic self, and that will lead you to like eventually like it will lead you to people who will like you for who you are.
Mm-hmm. I like the be angry. I think it's important to have like anger towards the world sometimes, because it sparks change and it like starts conversation. I think that's really special. Maryam?
Yeah, okay. I think my advice might be a bit cringy, but to be cringe is to be free. I've been like waiting to say this whole time, because I don't think there's anything wrong with being cringe.
100%.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that I'd really like to say is that if you're struggling, you're never alone. And I feel like that's something that really traps you when you're thinking about mental health and depression and that sort of thing, is that you get stuck in this mindset that you're the only one on earth who's ever experiencing this pain ever. And those feelings are so valid, but you are never alone in this pain. And it's really important that you find a community or friends that you can trust, that you can speak to them about this sort of thing and not be alone. So it's really important to build your own community and to be constantly creating and nurturing that community so that none of you ever have to feel alone again.
And I guess like quickly bouncing off what you were just saying, that of course it's sad that if you're going through an experience, it's going to be like hundreds of other people that are going through the same experience. But it's very rare that you're ever completely alone in the things you're experiencing, because especially now with the rise in TikTok, you can just like Google search, TikTok search, kind of like queer and disabled experiences and find like hundreds of videos from people from all over the world who are going through similar things that you're going through. So I feel like that's definitely another good thing to know, that you are never truly alone. Because obviously in a school, if you go to like a smaller school, there's a chance that you could be kind of the only person in your school that's going through a certain thing. But once you, like what I was saying a moment ago, when you leave school, there's going to be tons of other people who go through similar things or the same thing as to you're going through, and you can like make community with those people. So yeah,
I think like when I was initially like going through stuff, like I felt really alone in how I was feeling, and then I like vowed to like make sure like the people that come to me with those don't experience the same thing, and like just build a community based on like compassion and love. And I think that is something that's really special in the intersections that I'm part of, like just being able to come together and like start that like the chain of like making sure that the people after you feel included, feel accepted, and yeah, and I think that's really special. Thank you all for being very honest, very vulnerable, very open about everything that you feel, and mental health, and being comfortable to share parts of your intersections and your experiences of that. I think it's been a very wholesome conversation, and it's been lovely to get to know you all.
And you too.
Yes, thank you. And if anybody listening wants to listen to any of our stories or look at any of our creative content, you can go to the Celebrating Muslim story or Celebrating Queer Disabled stories on the YoungMinds website for all of our content. They're all really cool people. So if you want to see more, please check out the website. Thank you all. Bro.
I feel like I should clap there.
Yeah, like a clap.